I used rap back in the 90s, now I'm back on my own grounds, putting forth this ancient shit. You can hear it in the sound, my voice, giving you scholarship and there's no choice. I'm called Maine, so my main objective is go as I came, like Cain. We kill up our brothers because of the Bible way. Somebody that took the recessive brain, put it in the black man's head. My folks, they should all roll out with me just like these books I read. I'll bring your ass from amongst the dead, like I said. I'm bred, tell motherfuckers what the ancestors said. I'm bred to kill white supremacy as dead. I'm bred, tell you all I know about the melanin molecule. I wake sleep mass about it, they slumbering, sit in the school, the solar am rude. Over a holographic attitude. That means that my demeanor is set to tell your ass the truth. That means that my position is here to give your ass the scoop. Don't need a Benz when I ride. I'm a guide, a new input. I do this, self-initiation to send one through this. Study MO Jeff, come up with the conclusion. Medical association is ruthless. My conclusions is to take these words as adjectives, nouns, and verbs, providing a spark for your spine, so when I speak them, they'll be heard. From the heart to the pineal, spirituality will show you what's really real. To God and man form, and the solution ain't the deal. To worship something outside yourself is to worship something inferior to yourself. You send it to us sin, so the only one who can save your ass is self. Sight beyond sight, like lion, I come with my eye attached to my sword. Heart perceive my walk, actions perceive my thoughts. So I'm off to take a walk, is how I be dealing with my thoughts. I be staring at my people, y'all wanna be gods or not. I'm an alchemical nutcase, my pathwork got me moving at my own pace. I'm called Maine, so my main objective is to bring the pain I can't get fucked with. Literally, I'm an occultist. I brought my fire from the heavens, I'm Prometheus. I shine my light in the darkness, that makes me Lucifer. Get it? Psychologically, I'm inclined to do this shit till you can't fuck with it. Crushing every rapper, they don't have the mental capacity. Ain't talking about shit on their music, you motherfuckers is sloppy. So I'm back from the grave, knowledge I crave. Then I get assassin pussy, I'm Dionysus with my thesis. Raising my kundalini, I'm out the bottle, I'm the genie. People judge me how they want, but they really can't beat me. People push me to the point, but they really can't see me. With a camera lens and a bunch of friends in this 3D they living in. Yeah. Let me hear that on.
All right, peace and greetings. Peace and greetings to all the true gods and goddesses doing work on this path. We want to welcome everybody to the show. Coming live to you from lovely, beautiful North Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So peace to everybody. I know people starting to slowly trickle in. Our guest, Sister Trina, will be here just before 8:30. So we're going to go through a couple of things before she gets here. We'll be discussing her book that she written, her life and journey, getting on this path that we call left-hand path, path of self-mastery. And when we get a chance and we start talking with her, you'll see she came from the Black Hebrew Israelite School, that's a big transition, big change. But that'll be just before the 8:30 portion of the hour. So she'll be here shortly, so that'll give people time to trickle in. We'll go through a couple announcements and a few things prior to her arriving. Matter of fact, let me make sure she got the link, so when she's ready, let me do that. Get that out the way. Okay, there we go. All right, and when we get to the question portion, more than likely going to keep it within a 2-hour format. So have your questions. We'll open the phone lines if somebody wants to call in and ask her a question. But have your questions ready, because we're going to keep it in that format, time frame to kind of keep things rolling. So again, she'll be here about 8:30. So prior to that, just a couple quick announcements. The ritual, obviously, is tomorrow night. This month is pretty much shot and gone. Yesterday was okay, Trina's here already. All right. So I'm just going through a couple things, Trina, and then we'll bring you in, okay?
It's cool.
All right. Also, she got here earlier. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick, since we have the sister here, then we'll begin quicker than we're gonna. The ritual is tomorrow night. Cutoff day was yesterday, so we're not accepting anybody else unless it's a dire circumstance. That'll be tomorrow night for those that are coming. We'll see you there tomorrow night. And again, just to plug out the event in October, the 3-day event that we'll be having the weekend of the 25th to the 27th. That will be here in North Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Again, that will consist of different workshops, classes, presentations, ritualistic work, etc. If you are attending and you would like to do a presentation, as I said, contact me. Let me know what it is you would like to present, and I would like to, have some newer faces come to that event and do a presentation on a topic related to left-hand path of self-mastery. That's 25th to the 27th. Online classes begin July 20th. They run to the end of August, first week in September. And I'm going to do an individual private class. I'll put that out sometime tomorrow or the next day. That'll be on the 29th of June. I will be sliding some individual classes in between, not all the time, but here and there. And last thing, readings, consultations. If you like any information on any of those things, just look right in the description box there. You will see the email. You can email me at khnum19@gmail.com. So for any of those things, you could email me. And I will send you the information. If you didn't get, I know some people have said that they never got class information. Sometimes, again, if you sent me an email, it can bounce to the junk box sometimes. So just resend it again if you haven't heard from me, or sometimes I could just overlook it. It happens, believe it or not. It will happen. All right. So that's what we got going on. That's pretty much the current announcements. So what we're going to do, as soon as Trina comes back, I know she stepped away for a second, we'll go ahead and get into it. And again, have your questions ready. We're going to try to stay within the 8 to 10 format. Reason why I have some side stuff going on. So I want to kind of get to the meat of things. I want you guys to kind of have your questions. So when you got the opportunity, let's get to the questions. Let's get it going. And let's exchange information. All right, Sister Trina, if you could, I know some people know you, some don't. If you could basically introduce yourself, brief background of yourself, and also let people know about your book that you wrote and where it's available and where they can get it.
Okay. My name is Trina Hurt, and for the people that don't already know me, I know quite a few people are already familiar with me, but I am the author of Finding My Truth, a book I wrote back in 2014, something like that, and it's about my travels around the world, mainly to Israel and my experience with the Hebrew Israelites. And how I evolved. That was actually about how I evolved at that time, how I evolved from religion and serving a deity to the point of recognizing that I am that goddess, however you want to put it. It's my spiritual evolution and getting to the point where I'm at now. This is my first book here, if you can see it. For some reason, yeah. Is it grainy?
No, we can see it.
You can see it clear? Okay. And that's my very first book. And you can purchase that book if you're interested. The cost is $20. And it is on Amazon and other outlets. But those outlets, when you're a private writer, when you're private, you're self-published, Amazon will maybe decide to give you $2 of your sales.
Wow.
So I don't fuck with Amazon much at all. I try to tell everybody, please, I don't have an attorney. Order directly from me. You can order the book at Tiferet40 and Tiferet is spelled, or Tiferet, it is spelled T as in Tom, I, F as in Frank, E as in Edward, R, E as in Edward, T, the numbers 40 at gmail.com. And that's my PayPal account. It's $20 and I'll get it sent out to you myself that way. I make all of the profit and Amazon gets none.
Cool. Trina, do you have another device on in the background? Because I'm hearing myself twice. If you have
Really?
yeah, you might want to turn the volume down.
Okay, let me see here.
If it's a second device, I don't hear it now.
I don't have that's funny. I don't have a second device. My phone is plugged into the computer though, so let me take it out.
All right.
How's that?
No, yeah, it's gone now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, cool. So let's start with some basics. Where you're born and raised, your hometown, some basic information on your upbringing. Where were you born and raised? Let's start there, and then we'll kind of get to how you got to this point.
Born in Kansas City, Kansas, and I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. That's where I grew up. I was supposed to be a good little Christian girl and all that, Easter holiday, all that stuff. My mother was a minister of music, doctor of education. I come from one of those types of solid Christian family, good background. There was no way that any of us, the way that we were raised, there was no way that there was no room to stray away from the hand of God, per se. But I don't know. When I was very little, I just happened to find my way away from that hand of God. I did that. I was like, bye. I got other things to do, and that was something that I just didn't accept it. I was always the black sheep of the family, and very proud to be the one that was so different. If Mama dressed us for Easter Sunday, since I was second, I was dressed second after my older sister. Shortly thereafter, she would have to drag me out of the woods and I'd be dirty again by then. So I would get my ass beat. I didn't care. But, I was always the one that was the so-called rebel,
Okay. Yeah, I'm still hearing that echo. I don't know what it is. You sure you don't have two devices up with volume? Because I'm hearing myself twice.
I could not.
I'm not sure what it is.
And see, I don't hear anything, so
yeah, I'm not sure what it is.
I can turn my volume down.
I don't know if it's your volume, but you don't have it running on another device like on your phone or nothing like that, right?
No, I turned my phone off completely.
All right.
Well, I didn't want it to ring.
No, now it's gone. I don't know. Maybe could just be the connection. All right. So that was your upbringing. So at what point? And then when I say what point, at what age, what point, or what was the moment where you realized, all right, the religious thing wasn't for me? What was your first conscious awakening moment that shifted you in another direction?
What happened for me was what was it? I think towards the mid 90s or something like that. I was a single parent. My first husband passed away, for those who don't know.
Okay.
So during this time frame, I was a single parent. So I sat my kids down one day and I was like, hey, this Christmas shit is expensive for me. And I just told them straight up, the Lord ain't paying these Christmas bills. I am.
That's right.
So I said, we're not putting up no more trees. We're not spending another dime on Christmas. But what we will do is start taking trips. And we'll save our money and we'll vacation. We'll start doing that. And once I stopped celebrating Christmas, for some reason, it was like my whole family swarmed in on me. Like they just all started slamming me, saying that I was taking the Lord away from my children. Because even as an adult, although I went to church from time to time to please my mother, but to stop celebrating Christmas in my family was like huge.
Right.
You don't do that.
Right.
So that about the mid 90s was when I began actually vocalizing, hey, something wrong with this, and I don't want to keep doing it this way.
Right. So what was like, when you left Christianity, what was your first spiritual system that grabbed your interest that you started studying? And did you go straight into the Hebrew Israelites, or was there things prior to before you got into that? We definitely want to get into that when we get to it.
There were some things prior to the Hebrew Israelites that I kind of tapped into. I kind of looked at Hinduism. I wasn't quite ready for that shit. You know, I was like,
Right.
whoa, this dude got more than 2 arms here. This ain't working for me at that time. And then I tried to touch in on Islam, but I knew they were just going to kick my ass. You know, they weren't going to let me hang around because I'm too outspoken. So one day my son came home and he told me about the Hebrew Israelites.
Okay.
And they captured my attention. Well, I never prevented my kids from exploring any religion that's worked for them. I was like, do what you got to do for you. I never held them back from anything like that. And so
Now,
when
was your son just reading? Was your son just reading the information? Was he a member, or he was just reading the information?
he was one of his friends at school told him about it, and they were going to these Shabbat services every Saturday.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Shabbat.
Okay.
And so my mom became concerned because I didn't give a damn. I was like, just a bunch of Black folks getting together again, couldn't be any harm to it. My mother went first to the first meeting, and she said it was great. The men are gentlemen, this, that, and the third. And then finally, I took myself there. And when I got there, it was a sea of Black people. It was one of the most beautiful experiences. I was captivated by that energy. And the men sat on the floor for the women and the elderly. They sat on the floor. And so I had never seen that in a Christian church, because in a Christian church, them brothers will sit right there. In the seat and hope you find one, you know. But and another thing was they all appeared to be so loving and so supportive of one another. And their leader was he was a gentleman, and he was sweet, you know, and he was pretty young. And I could tell he didn't really know I knew the Bible better than he did. And I did, you know, because I study everything I can get my hands on, even now. But I just chose to support him and what he was trying to do, because I felt like he was bringing the people together, you know. And I felt like if the people in Kansas City could just hear this message of unity, you know,
Well,
we could all come together.
Yeah, well, we were all there, so you believe me, you're not alone. I was there years ago, so I could relate. So, was it that whole coming together of Black people that kind of attracted you? Was that one of the main things?
It did. The whole coming together of us, but the main thing is that they gave me something that I was already familiar with, which was the Bible. I'm already familiar with it like crazy. But what they really did for me was paint them Black.
I got you.
They paint them Black.
Makes
Now,
sense.
at the time, I didn't understand how strict they were going to be on women.
Of course.
Because the only reason they welcomed me was because my youngest son, all three of my children, you know, they wear the label of gifted and talented or what have you. But my youngest son has an extremely high IQ, and they were impressed with all these words he was saying. So they let my big ass mouth hang around because they wanted him to grow up and become Moray one day.
Right. You know? So let me ask you a question. When you were introduced to it, how long were you studying, reading the material? How much time went by until you actually dove in full-fledged and became an active member? How long did that process take, roughly?
For me, it only took like 2 or 3 weeks, because I already knew what they were talking about. But I wish I had taken longer to understand that they were going to try and follow the Old Testament, where women are really slammed and shut down. That part I did not understand. I thought they were, you know, I thought I would be welcome because of the New Testament. They called themselves New Testaments, you know, Hebrew Israelites. And I thought I was going to be welcome because of that. No.
Right.
They believed in the New Testament, but they lived under the Old Testament, and I didn't quite understand that, but I jumped in right away.
Sure.
You know, and you know how I am. A head first, going in, get this work done, get up on it, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
That was
Now,
me.
was this all taking place in your hometown? Was this a chapter in Kansas?
Actually, this chapter was located in Kansas City, Missouri, which is right across the river from Kansas City, Kansas. And at this time, I was living
Okay.
in Missouri. And we met every Shabbat. We met every Wednesday. Very support everybody. And oh, the brothers on the drums, mesmerizing. You know,
Okay.
and some sisters played too. So every week when those drums just captivated me as well. It was like I was just hypnotized with blackness. I love the energy I was in the beginning.
Right. I got you. Okay. So now, here's the question. How long were you, a member, and then at what point did you start like seeing issues that you had or things that you didn't agree with? So what was the turning point? Like, how long were you a member? How active? Well, obviously you were active from what you're saying,
Yeah.
but how much time went by where you started like saying, okay, something's not right here. This ain't for me. And you started pointing out the bullshit.
In a matter maybe a month or two.
Oh shit, that's quick. Okay.
Well, you know that I'm 0 to 100 in
Right.
5 seconds anyway.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
the problem came in, and I do public speaking as well.
Okay.
And so when the problem came in because the young man who called himself the Moray, his name is Shebaniah,
Mm-hmm.
he would come in to the service on Shabbat. He's supposed to deliver the message. This man is like what, 6'6"? He would come in and sit on the floor.
Okay.
My head was like,
And
and then
what was the science behind that sitting on the floor thing? Was it a gesture of politeness? Like, what did it signify something? Because obviously this is something that they did regularly.
that part I don't know. I don't know what message he was trying to convey. I don't know what he said. But in that moment, I should have packed my things and left.
I got you.
That was the clue to say, Trina, leave, leave. But because now at this point, all three children are deeply involved. I'm going.
Okay.
I had to let it run its process to a certain point. To a certain point.
Right. Okay.
And his wife, who was at that time bisexual, openly gay, whatever label she was wearing. And I'm not against people. I don't get into
Right.
how people have sex. I don't care. But when a woman who is bisexual or openly gay or whatever label she was wearing at that time, when you are slamming women who are heterosexual because you said this is what the Bible says, then me and her immediately, but we were like this all the time.
Well, how are they tolerant of that if the Torah speaks against, woman lying down with womankind and men lying down with men, same sex? That's in their doctrine. That's a total violation of their, Hebraic law. So
Of
why?
their belief system, yeah.
Right. So why was that acceptable, and why did people let that ride, or you don't know?
Because she was the Moray's wife, and they decided that she was
Oh,
a seer and she could do this and she
oh,
could do
okay.
that.
I
And
got
she's special now, and she's gonna be healed. She's gonna be healed from this, you
you.
know.
Oh,
And
okay.
and again, let me make it very clear. I don't care. I'm not into micromanaging people's sex lives. I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but however, they began to attempt to micromanage me and bring me under control so that they could keep watch over my son. In
Right.
fact, there were several times when they wanted to talk about adopting him.
Oh, hell no. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's that's another story. But they had a lot of sickness, a lot of backwardness, and a lot of bullshit going on in there. And then they had also gotten their leader, Shebaniah, was involved with a Jamaican drug ring. And eventually,
Awesome.
all of the Jamaican milk, they always involved in drugs
This
somehow.
is, it's, it
It's,
sounds
it's,
like
it's in the book. It's in the book. And the Jamaicans ended up going to jail. And eventually, Shebaniah left the country. But by the time he left the country, we were already in Israel. But there was a long string of them uh, selling drugs, gay,
awesome.
bisexual, her chasing other. That was a
Amazing.
very messy Hebrew group there. Very messy, very sloppy.
Well,
Okay.
not the only one, but let me say this before you continue to everybody. And I hope everybody's listening closely. And like Trina said, the stuff is in her book. She discusses it in the book. This is why you do not join these organizations, people. And I had that experience. You're hearing it now. I'm glad you guys are listening to a female now talk about it, because it's usually a front and a cover up for people to do their dirt and their bullshit. And I also want to say this, just as you reiterated, Trina, I don't have no problem. I don't care if you're bisexual, gay, straight, heterosexual. That I wasn't pointing that out, and neither was Trina pointing it out for that. But it's hypocritical when you have laws that state otherwise. Like I look, I think you should be free to express yourself sexually any way you see fit. But when you have a doctrine or a dogma, because some of you guys in the states that you live in, you're familiar. You see them out in the corners, like Trina said. A woman walks by wearing, form-fitting or sexy clothes, they're attacking them, bashing them, calling them a whore and a prostitute. But then you're listening to what she's saying, then they're allowing this type of fuckery to go on. So anyway, but continue. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And they tried very hard to bring me in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But even if anybody who has known me for more than 5 minutes knows that's not going to happen. And it never will.
Was there a lot of polygamy that went on in those camps that you were involved in? Was there men that had multiple wives? Because I know that's something.
Honey, let me tell you, the brothers, they wanted to have multiple wives, but a lot of them brothers was on welfare and the women were working.
I love it. Awesome.
That shit too, okay?
Right.
The brothers will sit around and get a welfare get a welfare check, and a lot of the women would be out working and the men wouldn't come with anything to support the household. Some brothers, some of them I was friends with some of them had 24 children and
awesome.
this, that, and the third, and everybody collecting a big fat welfare check and all this type of stuff. So that's basically what I witnessed. And they are great protectors of child molesters.
Awesome.
There was a man, I could say his name. I don't know if I should.
Hey, fuck it.
Huh?
All child molesters should be known, just in case.
I will then.
No, the reason why I say that,
for it.
I'm not saying to get on and bash him, but there might be somebody out there
so that people know.
There you go.
So that people know.
His
name is Stephen Blackburn. And back then he was going by the name of Eliyahu. He went to prison at one point for child molestation, okay?
He should have.
And this is who our leader of our congregation, had associated himself with, okay? This fool here.
Right.
And when they brought him into the congregation, at first I didn't know what this man was about. All I knew was I didn't like him. I didn't like anything about this man at all. And I didn't have a reason to dislike him. Damn it, sometimes you just don't like somebody. And he was one of them. I couldn't figure out why until one day they had an event down in Tennessee, and my little sister brought me some documents on Stephen Blackburn. He was a child molester, and I was mortified at what he had done.
How long was he? What was his history doing this for? Was this something that was doing for years? And did members know?
Yes.
Wow.
The thing that was one of the reasons I had to get out of there, because they knew. And they were all trying to keep it secret from me because they knew if I found out that I was going to go full tilt. I was going to blast his ass. And sure enough, my sister handed me that paperwork. She said, "Get your children up out of there now. You better come back to the Lord, girl.
Wow.
Jesus waiting on you."
That's right. You'd be saved. That's right. But let me say this real quick, Trina. It seems like in all of these cult or cultish black organizations, it's a breeding ground for pedophiles and sex offenders.
And
The
criminals.
Nuwapians, obviously, everybody knows the history of the Nuwapians and Dr. York.
Yeah.
He was a sick fuck. A lot of the people that are affiliated with him to this day, and I know some of them, they're pretty sick and fucking twisted in the head too. And it always seems like these cults and organizations are set up, again, to bring innocent women and children in. And there's this separation of the women and children, or this, they categorize the women and children, so they set it up to a point where they have access to them. And one thing I noticed, and I'm curious if this went on in your involvement, and I know some of the Israelite camps, there's a lot of similarities. I know they varied from place to place, but they had a lot of similarities. I know, like, the whole suppression thing of the woman, most of these organizations, the women kind of stay-at-home loyal servants, and they don't really have much, and they become solely dependent on the men. Did the women have any type of voice in the camp other than playing the servitude role? Oh, okay. Can you share with us, like, what were you guys expected? Or
a lot of the women just went out and worked, because the men would not work a job if they had to work on a Saturday or something like that, because they honored the Shabbat. But the women could always find jobs that didn't work them on a Saturday. The women always worked, but they turned over their money to the men.
Okay. Now, I know there's a couple of camps, and I know some of the brothers personally in New York, where some of these camps justify having relationships with these young girls, and they would use biblical shit like, oh, you know, prophet such and such married this one when they were 13 or 14. Was there any of that shit going on there, or there was just some behind the scenes undercover dirt shit people knew about and they just didn't say nothing?
Now, I'm very honest about this group that I was a part of, okay? Now, they did hide Stephen Blackburn, Captain Child Molester, okay? They hid him.
Wow.
But before he came in, there was a girl that was in the group who was actually molested by somebody claiming to be her stepfather. And the mother came to the men one night and told them what happened.
Right.
The report never made it to the police. These brothers got together and went out and whooped his ass.
Wow. Okay.
Now, they were very protective of the women and children.
Okay.
And this was before the Stephen Blackburn days. Eliyahu came. They were very protective of the women and the children in that manner. If I came to them, as much as they disliked me, and I told them I was having a problem with the man, they would handle it.
Okay.
They would rise up. Yeah, they were genuine in that manner. Very, very genuine.
Well, that's a good thing. At least there was some type of
decency somewhere.
Decency, yeah. All right. So having gone through all this, at what point did you kind of start separating, do your own thing, start traveling? Because obviously you've traveled, you've lived in different places in the country and all over the world. So at what point, like, was there a breaking point? You was like, fuck this, I got to kind of branch out and do my own thing. When did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The first set of Jamaicans had gone to jail for drugs, for selling. I mean, they was pushing some serious weight on marijuana. And the first set had gone to jail. And this Stephen Blackburn, child molester, had called himself going to go to court and act as their defender, as their attorney.
Okay.
He had no law degree, of course. He just knew Moorish law.
Oh, that probably went down really quick. Yeah. Yeah.
And all of that. So, of course, the first set of Jamaicans ended up going to prison. And then after that, that was shortly thereafter down in Tennessee, I got that paperwork from my sister on Stephen Blackburn. And then shortly after that, I went and I spoke directly to the Moray, the leader, Shebaniah. And I was like, yo, dude is a child molester, you know?
Wow.
And I handed him the paperwork. And the first thing he said, what did he say? He said, You are speaking against the anointed of the Lord.
Oh, fuck that. See, that's the shit I'm talking. That's that cult shit that I'm talking about. You see, and I'm glad you said that. That's that psychological game. They do. I'm telling you, they do that.
Yeah.
The Nuwapians, they've done it. They do it in all these cult organizations. If you speak out against authority, you're demonized. You're the person that's got an issue, and they make it. They set this plateau like they got these fancy fucking titles, which is funny. Like you said earlier, most of them were collecting welfare checks and couldn't even take care of themselves. But they got these fancy titles and these positions of authority. And then when you, like you said, when you confronted them, here come that old power tripping shit. But anyway, go ahead.
And and I told them I need to take this paperwork to the congregation. We need to talk about this. Y'all have to cut him off. And he told me straight up, we're not cutting him off.
Right.
We're not going to do this, and you're not going to say anything. I said, I'm going to say something.
Now, was this guy contributing something? Did he have money? Like, why?
Yeah, he was actively participating with the Jamaican drug ring as well.
Okay, that answers.
And so he was bringing big bang, and he had his congregation in Tennessee. And Shebaniah wanted to be just like him. I mean, he did have a very congregation. They did their African dances every Shabbat. They did this, they did that. They're very structured and very organized. And when Shebaniah grew up, he was going to be just like Stephen Blackburn, minus the child molestation.
I got you. It's crazy how they just let that type of shit slide. So how long were you in the organization, and then when did you just officially say, fuck, I'm done with this shit?
December 2005, we were in. By the end of 2006, we were out.
Okay, so about a year.
The whole family was out. When I said go, when Mama said go, we got to get up and go. Everybody goes. We out.
I got you.
My daughter wasn't going to be singing with them no more. All that Shabbat shit was done. And I said, y'all gonna have to have Shabbat at home, because if you go back there, you won't be in this house anymore.
I got you. So you laid the gauntlet down.
Yes.
So once you separated from them, officially, what was your next level of information, spirituality that you went? What did you do from that point? Now, where did you head?
Shortly after I left the congregation, I found this dude, Yehuda Berg, online talking about Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. And I began to study that and learn more about it. And shortly thereafter, my mother died. And after my mother died, I got a letter in the mail. I thought the Hebrews heard of my mother's death and they sent me a card, but instead they sent me a letter that said my mother died because I left their congregation.
Oh, wow. See, that's that scare tactics that control your emotions via fear. That is fucking comical.
And I burned it. I burned the letter. I was like, bye, But my mother's death triggered trauma. As we know, trauma triggers you to do things.
Sure.
And my mother's death triggered me to begin to study Kabbalah as best I could. I didn't have a really good understanding of it at the time, but I began trying to, because I wanted to know where my mama went. I knew there was something more. Right. And I wanted to know where my mother went. So Kabbalah started opening a gateway for me to understand where my mother was.
Okay.
And I'd also I got in contact, I took some classes at a synagogue, and they knew. Now, this is the thing. Now, these Jews are funny as hell, because their asses knew everything. But they were checking to see where I was in my development. That's all.
Okay.
There was game on their side and game on mine. I won, though. But at any rate, that's another story.
Right.
But we were basically worshiping Yah at home at this point and planning our exit to Israel.
Okay.
Yeah. By 2007, what was it, April 2007, we were living in Israel. Because
Okay.
that's where Israelites go.
Well, supposedly, yeah. Exactly. So what was your thought process? So you went to Israel because you wanted to what? Completely engulf yourself in the spiritual system. So what was your decision making process? And said, look, all right, we're getting ready. We're leaving the States. We're going to Israel. What was?
Well, even though I was out of that congregation at the time, I was still deeply indoctrinated by the doctrine itself.
I got you.
I was still living it. It was still in my head.
I got you.
And so I believed that Babylon was in the process of falling.
I got you.
We had to go home. We had to get out, y'all.
Right. Now, did any influence with that with Ben Carter's people? Because I know they
Absolutely not. Again, that's another group. Now, I've been down there one time, briefly, one time, and I knew they were going to beat my ass too. Because down in they were worse down there. They did things called nation beatings. Meaning if you did not follow the rules of Ben Ami and whoever was giving you your interpretation, I would have 10 women or more holding me down while they beat the shit out of me. So I knew they were going to beat me up because I'm not listening to any of you. None of So I knew not that wasn't a place I would be welcome to. And then also down there, this is just based on from what I heard, because I went down there very briefly one time. But from what I heard, if you were going to live there, you have to turn over your suitcase, your passport, your everything becomes community property.
Wow, that's fucked up.
And that's just what I heard about Ben. I mean, I lived in Ashkelon.
Okay, no, I heard what you're saying about Ben Carter. I've heard similar stories. Now, obviously, like you said, you were down there only briefly one time. I've never been there, but I do know people that spend time there with former members. So I've heard very similar stories. And again, here's another theme that's very familiar with all these cult groups and organizations. And again, the Nawapians, it was the same thing. And I'm saying that from my experience. And I know Brother Duma, he has that experience too, and others. That seems to be a recurring theme. You got to turn over all your possessions.
Yes.
Everything you just described when you go into that commune. And I think the commune lifestyle is set up to have that control. Now, I know they present it like, oh, we're living of, for, and by each other. We're living as a family. It sounds great. And I could see how any of us can get captivated by that. And I think, you got two types of people. You got people like yourself and others that their intent was, like you said, the unity thing. But then you got the other people that use it as a shield to hide behind and do fuckery like child molestation and sexual pedophilia because it's a breeding ground for that shit.
And like sexual perversions, boys and girls, all manner of sickness.
And that's why I said put that dude's name out there, because there might be somebody that later sees this video and they might be having dealings with this fucking sick pervert and don't know he's a pervert. And I think that's the other thing we got to stop doing. We have to start making, people aware of these things when they get in these cults and these groups. And if you got people like that in them groups, they need to be exposed, because we're just as guilty if we sit by and we don't say anything.
And not say anything about what's going on,
Exactly. We must say something, because look, there's no excuse for I don't care if you're a female or a male, there is no excuse for any adult, male or female, to take advantage of a innocent, harmless child. There's no justification for it. There's nothing you can say. Don't even waste your time. You're wasting your time. People like that should be dealt with and exposed. But I'm glad you put the name out there. But anyway, all right, so you're in Israel now. Now, how long did you spend in Israel? And then, like, the time you spent there, I know I've heard you talk about it. And when you've come here for some of the rituals, you've discussed it with us too. You talked about, some of the racist shit you experienced in Israel.
Yes.
Well, which not surprising. So let's talk a little bit about that and tell us how long you spent there, some of the shit you went through, and then where did you go from Israel? Where was your next what was your next move? But first, share some of your experiences there.
Well, and I shared this particular story that I'm about to tell you all. You know, and I shared with quite a few different people, and I feel like this part of the story has to be told so that
Sure.
people know. So if you do go to Israel as a Hebrew Israelite to live there, you know what you're facing. When shortly after we arrived in Israel, I went with about $25,000 cash in my pocket. Not a lot of money,
Right.
but not a lot of money to me anyway.
I
But
got you.
I arrived there and we're all happy, excited. And I decided to go to the grocery store. I don't speak any English. Shalom, shalom. That's all I know is shalom, elom,
Shalom a ding dong.
I'm
There you
happy
go.
to be there. And what I didn't notice was in my happiness, I overlooked the people that were really staring at me way harder than anything in America that I've ever seen.
Sure.
But I go ahead, I do my little shopping. I got a big old cart full of everything because we're going to celebrate the Shabbat. You know, I'm all happy, you know.
That's it. Get your Shabbat on.
Okay, in the land.
That's it. The Holy Land.
Yeah, honey, in the Holy Land.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, my cart was just stuffed with everything imaginable. So this Ethiopian gentleman, he's speaking their language. He's trying to see if he can get in front of me because he only has a couple of items. First, I was like, and then he starts pointing and signaling. I was like, oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing I know, this white woman tapped me on my shoulder and she starts going off on me in Hebrew, and I'm just like, oh, I don't understand the thing you're saying. I don't get this.
She was pissed because you let him skip.
Yeah, and so I'm saying I need lo mevina. I need lo. I'm saying I don't understand. I don't know. But next thing I know, the woman hauled off and spit on me.
What? Wait. Back up. Say that shit again. I didn't know this part.
The woman hauled off and spit on me. It was in slow motion.
Wow.
And I watched the spit land on this shoulder here. I was like, all the anger of the ancestors rose up in one fist.
Shit, that's crazy. What did
And
you do?
I just went blank. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't hear anybody. But when I came out of this blindness, the woman was on the floor. Her face was like cracked open, almost like the nose just torn apart.
Damn.
And she was on the floor screaming, and I was just like,
So you zoned out.
I zoned out completely.
Now, let me ask you this. The time that you spent there, I know there's a lot of Ethiopian Jews.
Yes, she thought I was
Africans.
Ethiopian.
So, I mean, when you were there, did you see a large influx of Ethiopian and African Jews?
Oh, massive. And
Okay.
there are not just African Jews that live there. It's Africa, it's Northeast Africa. They're Africans.
Yeah.
The indigenous people are still there, and you won't know until you get there. And even then, you still may not see them. You got to kind of dig to find the actual indigenous ones, but they're there. And they beat the shit out of them every day. That's why she thought she could spit on me.
Right.
They beat them, they kill them, they spit on them, they do anything they want to.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, you're there now. You're in Israel. How long did you stay there, and how involved did you get? Were you part of a congregation there, or did
No.
You
I
weren't?
never joined another congregation again because I needed to explore Yah for myself.
That's it. Explore Yah. So
I needed to know Yah for me.
How long did you stay there, and then?
5 years. Now, I have to also say, while I was there, that was when the real spiritual awakening began. Because as I found out while I was there that I was not in Israel. There was no Israel, no such thing. I was in Egypt.
Correct. It's a self-made state. We know the history of Israel.
And
Basically,
that was my awakening right there. Whoever they were, these different entities, beings, or I started seeing shit around there.
And sure, because I asked about the Ethiopian after the different Jews from some of the lands in Northeast Africa and Africa in general. What most people don't do is the research and study the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim Jews, because you'll find that the Sephardim were the older branch of Jewish stock or Hebrew stock, where a lot of the melanated Hebrews came from.
Yes.
The Ashkenazim are all your like
Europeans.
your Russians, your Europeans, your Germans, and then your experience with the language. Now, which some people do or may not know, they don't speak classical Hebrew there. It's a combination of Yiddish and
German.
Hebrew, right? Which is a bullshit language too.
Yeah.
Right. So you're there over this 5-year period. You practice the culture. Now, you said you had some spiritual epiphanies,
Yes.
experiences. I mean, I'm not saying you got to get into all of them. What was one that you can think of that was profound or impacted or had an impact on you?
The main one was when they referred to me, or they came to me and they referred to me as Elotnu.
Okay.
And they told me they said, Elotnu, we have conceived.
Okay.
And I responded to them, they didn't tell me who had conceived,
Okay.
but I knew my name as Elotnu. When they called me that, I responded to them. And I went to my daughter, I went to my son's wives. I said, who's pregnant? Come to find out, it was actually my daughter. She had miscarried her first child and she was pregnant again, but she didn't know it. So she went, a couple days later, she went to the store, got a pregnancy test, and come to find out she was very pregnant again with her second child.
Okay. Okay.
And that was the beginning of a different type of spiritual communication. And they looked black, bald-headed. Do you remember when you did the reading on me? And
Yes.
that was them. That's what they looked like.
So okay. You educated me on something. I remember, yes, describing when that spirit and those energies came through. So what we're describing there, that was, what's up, buddy? That was, you tapped into some type of spirit guide in your experience, though, even though it's subjective, it's personal, but obviously it's real to you because it's your personal experience. And we want to make sure we put that out there and we're clear about that. Now, did that lead you in another, did that draw you closer to this doctrine, or did it open you up to more broader things beyond it?
It opened me up beyond anything that I had ever dealt with in my life. And I was so happy. It felt, because what hurt me the most at that time was that I was not able to live up to being this, what do you call it? This virtuous Hebrew Israelite woman. And they all, when I was living in Israel, they would all refer to me as Lilith. Yes. They called me Lilith constantly. So I had to look up who Lilith was. And I was like, I'm not Lilith. Now I'm like, they were letting me know exactly who I am, who I was.
Right. Now,
they were calling out that energy.
Explain to the people in that culture, especially in Israel, what Lilith represents to them, so that people are clear.
Okay. For the Hebrews, Lilith, being the first wife of Adam, she was a child murderer and she was disobedient to Adam. So she was not good enough to be Adam's wife. So she got kicked to the curb, and Eve had to come in and take her place. And so for them to call me Lilith meant that I was trash, that I will murder children, that I want to kill men, and I was a whore, and I'm this and I'm that, just anything negative concerning feminine energy.
Well, that's why I wanted you to mention it, to show the subliminal racism and prejudice behind it, so people can get an understanding of that. Because I know when you said Lilith, we know what it means on the left-hand path, and like you were saying, it was showing something that they weren't aware of, but they didn't mean it like that. I want listeners to know. Don't think, that they were paying her a compliment, because they weren't. It was subliminal prejudice and hatred and fucking racism. But
They
anyway,
were making fun of me.
correct. I just want to make sure the listeners are clear on that. I don't want them to think how we have the respect for Lilith on this pad is not the same thing. But anyway, go ahead.
And so they actually caused me to study what was that, Kabbalah more. And I had purchased, I got involved deeply in Kabbalah in Israel with a group of white people, with a bunch of white Jews. And I couldn't understand at the time, but that particular Kabbalah group honored my presence. Every time I came, they'd be like, "Oh, we are so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Oh my goodness. Do you know who you are?" I was like, "Well, yeah, don't you know who you are? Of course I know who I am." And then they'd look at each other like
Right.
they knew something I didn't. And yes, they did know something that I didn't know.
Okay. So now, all right, you had this, obviously, some experiences. 5 years is up. You're there, and I know there's a lot more. We're trying to give people a brief synopsis.
Right.
I want to leave
Just
some time. Right. Again, get the book. She goes into more detail in the book. I want to leave some time for people to, ask you some questions and things of that nature. But all right, so you're there for 5 years. That ran its course. When you left Israel, where did you go from there?
After I left Israel, I came back to America, and I just jumped right into any information that I could get my hands on that did not concern being religious. And anybody that did try to take me in the way of religion was dismissed from my life altogether.
Okay. So you came back. Is it safe to say you came back to the States now, kind of a different mindset? You
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I started trying to study Ifa, but the person that was presenting it to me, she brought it to me in the form of a religion.
Sure.
I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
I wouldn't hear of that. And so I didn't dismiss her. She also introduced me to Reiki. And so I continued studying Reiki with her for a while, but for whatever reason, she wouldn't move me along to becoming the Reiki master teacher that I wanted to become. But and I did get my certification though.
Right. And that's because you take money out of a pocket. But go ahead.
I understand.
Yeah.
While I wasn't living in Israel, I listened to Brother Panic. I listened to Bobby Hemmett, Dr. Aline, and they did give me. They also provided some roots for me to start looking beyond myself. Now, granted, I did not have any guidance. I was basically on my own trying to figure this thing out. And I finally figured out, just listening to videos that we could do spells on people.
Right.
We could do this, we could do rituals, we could do that, but I had absolutely no guidance whatsoever. So I just jumped in and did anything that was different from being religious.
Okay.
And I made a lot of mistakes along the way too.
But that's a good thing, because sometimes you need to step away like you did, and you need to just sometimes experiment. But the mistakes is the learning process. And I'm sure now, because we're going to get to the point where you're at now, I'm sure now you can look back and reflect on it and actually use it as a learning tool. You know what I mean? So, but go ahead.
And the mistakes that I made, and I wish if I could, I don't have no regrets. Let me not say I wish, but I will say for people coming along completely lost and don't understand, if anybody hearing the sound of my voice and you watch this video or whatever, let me just say, please understand the 7 Hermetic principles first.
That's right.
Before you cast a spell, because then nobody, if I would have had that one basic bit of information, and don't just read it, know it, learn it. Because if you cast that spell, that shit liable to come back and bite your ass.
That's correct. and that's why you always hear me always telling beginners or new people on the path, it is gives you a good general understanding of the power of your subjective and objective. But yeah. Okay. So you're experimenting now, you're trying different shit. Now, were you part of the whole I don't know if you were or not. That's why I'm asking. Did you get involved in the whole? All right, so Ifa, you were involved to a certain degree. You didn't want to commit fully because of the religious bullshit. Could totally relate. Did you ever get down with the whole conscious community, Hotep and
Oh, now come on. I'm involved with them somewhat now, but
okay,
I'm still the same rebellious soul, or what, as one chick called me on Facebook. I get kicked out of groups. I'm never fully accepted anywhere except for by a few. And the few that do accept me are the ones that are they can see I'm up and coming and just trying to learn, just trying to make my way. Some people say, you're too forceful. I said, I'm just asking questions. I'm not trying to be forceful. I
right,
just want to know.
sure.
And exactly. And some people get, oh, and I do tend to spook people out at times.
So, so let me. And again, I know you do work with some of these organizations, and I was posing that question. So, listeners, are you open about your affiliation with your studies with left hand path practices? Do they know, or you kind of separate the two?
I don't separate anything. I am that I am.
There you go. Okay.
I hide nothing. And that's why they get spooked out.
Okay. All right. No, no, no. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, all right. Yeah, as you're experimenting, exploring, was there any period where you got down with the whole Egypt thing? Was that a phase you went through, or you didn't really get into it like that, or?
The whole Egypt, for me, Egypt. Now that my oldest son T. Me and him go back and forth on Egypt all the time.
Right.
But Egypt for me has been a slowly unfolding process. And my travels to Africa and this, that, and the other around the world. I know Egypt is not the lot. A lot of people think Egypt is all that Africa is, and it's not.
It's not.
And
You're right.
and so people have different concepts, and they're applying their modern day head to a
Sure.
very ancient society. And so when people start talking about what Egypt is and Egypt is that, oftentimes I just tend to shut down because to allow them to express themselves. But then I always have to ask them or advise them that that is your concept.
Right.
Egypt had homosexuality.
Right.
Egypt had this. And guess what? They didn't give a damn about how people had sex.
True. True
You
indeed.
know, a lot of people, they get, offended, they get touchy, but it is what it is. They didn't give a damn.
Right. Okay. So now to speed it up a bit, and to all the listeners, we're going to get to your questions in the chat, and I'll try to open the phone lines for a little bit. So let's fast forward. So now we got a thorough. You went very discreetly, but in detail. We see where you came from. We see what you got. At what point did you start really encountering? And again, I'm just using a term: left-hand path practices, information. At what point did you first start encountering it, and then when did you kind of say, "Okay, I'm going to kind of shift to this and explore this"? At what point did that happen?
2016, I reached out to. Well, I had been looking at the left-hand path all along, but I backed off of that shit because that was just something I really didn't get that. That was just a
I
whole
got
different level. But I
Right.
reached out to Brother Panic at one point,
Okay.
and we did a couple of events together, and this, that, and the third.
Okay.
And he was able to explain some things, and then I moved, or that was a temporary phase. You move on, you keep growing, you keep it coming. But
Sure.
getting into the left-hand path itself is, I will say, it's something that I have unfolded into over time.
Okay.
The evolutionary process. There have been different intervals of self-discovery that have come over a period of time. One, and I have to tell it, but one of the most profound experiences that I had was at the drumming session.
Okay.
I just had to say that.
No, yeah, I remember that was your first ritual. You came here. I do remember that.
That was my first drumming session, and being a sister that loves drums and loves dancing,
Hmm. Okay.
That was profound.
Cool. So that was one of the shifts. All right.
Yes.
That kind of waking. So where we're at now. So having gone through that, going through some of the, so the last thing I'll ask before we take some questions here, kind of share with the people. I'm gonna step away for like 20 seconds, but share with the people kind of what some of your areas of interest currently right now, some of the things you like to do or that you gravitate towards, etc. So where are you at now? Having been through all that, what is it? What has it made you realize now that you're on this path? Kind of explain the feeling of that, and then maybe you could share briefly some of the things that you currently work with or do right now with people. All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna be right back.
Okay, no problem. So what I'm doing right now um, is a path of self-discovery, as the left-hand path is in the direction that I'm taking. Um, to find out that all of this power is within me. And every time I do my candle magic, um, it's like I discover another layer within myself. Some people like to label me as dark, but I'm like, okay, I'm that too, but I'm light, I'm dark, I am good, I'm bad. Some people like to label me as a demon. I say thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for recognizing that power in me. You know, but where I'm at right now is uh, a different level of self-discovery through meditation, through drumming, through candle magic, through watching videos, through reading. Brother Mario Polk a while back suggested a book called Women Who Run with Wolves, which talks about the wild nature of the woman and how to restore and maintain. So I read a lot, constantly studying myself. And I also observe. Sometimes I just stop wherever I'm at and I observe people's behavior even.
Okay.
And I watch different interactions. I watch people, and a lot of times, even my friends, people who are around me, have no idea how observant I really am to my surroundings, and I can see different aspects of different deities even in them. You know,
Right.
but it all goes back to me, though, the awakening of Trina. And, when people talk about a spiritual awakening, this awakening is not something that just one day, boom, you're awake. No, no, there are layers and layers and layers and layers of awakening
That's right.
to that I've gone through, that I'm going through. I'm not the same person I was in 2016 when I did meet Brother Panic. I'm not the same person I was last year when I met with Brother Beniti face to face. Finally,
Right.
I'm not the same person because the change is constant.
Right. And that's a good point. And I hope everybody caught that. It's not, this doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. And I'm glad that you said that because I think some people get frustrated because of the fact they get on this path and, you uncover a lot of shit about yourself. So it's a lot of work you got to go through when we always talk about shadow work, working on the self.
Woo,
Yeah.
shadow work, man.
That could be some traumatic stuff that takes time to work through because, as you said, it's a process because you awaken so much things inside of you that you, one, good stuff too. You unlock some of your spiritual powers and potential, but you also unlock a lot of crazy shit. And I think that's where the frustration comes in my opinion, with people. But I'm glad you stated that. But
Absolutely. And also in this process, when you're dealing with shadow work, um, I discovered I discovered a deep anger, so a lot of anger towards women. I didn't like them for a long time. But then I found out that was, as I began doing my shadow work, that was feelings buried long ago from being molested by a girl cousin.
okay, all right,
And I began that the process I had to heal. And it's a process, even going through that right now. I'm Mostly I get along better with men because men from my perspective, appreciate my direct nature. I'm very direct, straight to the point, yes or no. You'll get a straight up true answer from me. But I found out that women kind of like to, well, we're going to sugarcoat this and we're just going to make some flowers on it and make it pretty for you. No, bitch, I'm going to tell you the truth. If you don't want to know, I'm not the person to ask. That's all. But I'm still working on me. Obviously, it's an unfolding process and healing from molestation and other things that have happened in my life. But I had no idea all of the hurt, all of the shame that was buried within me. That's slowly coming out now. It's a process.
No, big time. And I'm glad you sharing that. So I hope, one, before we get to some of these questions, let me just say this. One, be careful when you join these organizations. I mean, that's just a small part. Well, not a small part. It was a large part of her life, but a small part of the story. But you've heard me talk about it. You've heard others. I don't think we really ever hear a female share that experience coming up in that those systems of indoctrination. So we all come from we all have a different story to tell. That's for sure. But I think one thing that's unique about Trina's story, it's rare to see people come from that strict religious, fanatical system and come into this. That's like doing a 360. When I literally say it's like doing a 360. So if her and others like her can do that, make that shift, and make that change, I don't really think anybody's got an excuse. All right. And there's some other things she's touching on, something very personal, molestation, which to this day, it amazes me how many people are victims of this. Now, I myself was never in any shape, form, or fashion a victim, but I know in my spiritual work over the years, I'm not even exaggerating. I'm going to say almost 1 out of every 3 people that I deal with, and that's not even exaggerating. When I'm talking about clients and consultations, I just never knew. I didn't start realizing this till about 20 years ago. I just never knew how common this shit is. It's fucking crazy. Like it's just, and it's always family members that are the culprits. Like you said, in this case, it was your cousin. It's always a mother, a father, a auntie, a uncle, a cousin. It's always a direct family man. And I just can't believe how common this shit is. It's just, it blows me away. And then as the years go by, more people such as yourself step forward and you're telling similar stories. It's fucking crazy. But the beautiful thing is, I'm glad to hear you and others like you that have been able to transcend it. And as you said, that was a trauma you had to address as I'm sure as complicated as it was and traumatic as it was, it needed to be done. But I'm sure you're better off now here than anything else.
Yeah.
So,
but it's the shadow work is a necessity.
Big time.
To evolution. You must tap into the dark side. Y'all call it your clipo.
There you go.
So, you must tap into your personal clipo, and know thyself completely.
That's it. All right. So what we're going to do, people, I'm going to go through the chat and then I'm going to see what questions you got for Trina. If you want to come in after that, you'd like to come in live and ask her a question, I'll open up the phone lines briefly. It's about 9:20 now. We're going to stay on till 10 o'clock. So you have about 40 minutes. You heard. And again, I'd still get her book. As she said, contact her. Can you give that email address one more time so they can contact you directly for it rather than go through Amazon?
The address is tiferet40@gmail.com. And that's T as in Tom, I, F as in Frank, E as in Edward, R, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, 40@gmail.com. Tiferet40@gmail.com is $20.
Okay, and you also have an Instagram and a Facebook they can reach you at too, right?
Oh yeah, Trina Hurt, both of them, Instagram and Facebook, both of them are under my name, Trina Hurt. You can reach me there, and you can always inbox me. I'll tell you straight up, please. If you have something to say, by all means say it, but don't approach me with no foolishness. Your girl don't tolerate no nonsense. All right.
All
I
right, so
will get that ass.
you got multiple ways to reach her: Facebook, Instagram, via email. And again, get the book directly from her, as she said, because she doesn't really get too much profit off of it from Amazon. If you're just straight fucking lazy and you want to go to Amazon and you don't want to be bothered, I mean, whatever. But contact her directly. And again, just like some of the other people in the group that have a talent, a skill, service, let's support each other. All right. So I'm gonna go to the top of the chat.
Oh, real quick, Brother Beniti, I also just wanted to say this fall, my second book, Legend of the Goddess, will be coming out as well.
Okay.
And it's talking about, and I call it a legend because it goes into the history of the goddess, how she was wiped from the memory of the planet, the Great Mother, and how currently she's being restored to her rightful place. We're going through that now. And also, I have a chapter in the book of the original Black Mother. So, sisters, if you all would like to participate in that book and you have a beautiful picture of yourself, if you're pregnant, makeup, no makeup, in your natural form, however you want to do it, if you want to send me a picture and participate in that particular chapter, by all means, please feel free to email it to me now. I'm going to send you a release form because I don't want no legal stuff coming back this way. I'll send you a release form and then I will put your picture in my book.
So no dropping like it's hot photos, no thongs. No, just kidding.
Well, no. I say come as you are because I want every aspect of the Black woman in there. Because I might put in a twerking video. I might send out a twerking video with it because I can twerk.
All right, so you go on broad, but the pregnant thing, that's pretty cool. That's always
however she chooses to represent herself, weave, natural hair, whoever you are, go ahead and send me a picture and participate in that chapter of the original Black Mother because this is all about honoring you.
Okay. And you're saying this is you're looking at sometime in the fall to release this.
In the fall, that particular book will be out. I've had to do some additional research, a lot of different in fact, I got a whole stack of books here next to me. I'm trying to keep from knocking them over. That I've had to research and do a lot of work on that to, figure out, the details of how she disappeared and what happened to her.
Cool. All right.
So before you go to the chat.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm here.
There she
Miss
is.
Trina.
What's up, beautiful?
Hey, gorgeous. I just, falling back, listening. Great interview. Much appreciated. Because I didn't have to go through all of those systems.
I know that's right, honey.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I have a question or two.
Yeah.
Or who knows? How have you overcome your obstacles with this path?
Wow.
Or has there been any obstacles?
Woo! Girl. Have there been obstacles? Child. I just want to say I'm grateful for a group that I belong to called Oracle, because they walked me through a lot of the obstacles here of the last few years that I've had. And I'm glad they were there for me. And I love them all. But the obstacles that I have had basically have been within me. There are a lot of things about myself that I didn't understand. And walking this left-hand path, doing some rituals that Brother Beniti gave me to do, led me to the point where I began to know myself, and also getting in touch with my ancestors helped me to figure out where I came from, how I got to where I am now, and where I'm going. Working with how do you say it, Beniti? Lilith? How do you say it? Yeah,
Lilith.
I say Lilith. Okay.
I got
But
you.
working with Lilith and various other deities, I began to awaken those particular energies within myself, and then I began knowing me, and then that's when the words that I speak became more. I became more cautious to think about what I'm going to say instead of random speaking,
Right.
because I began to realize that my words are manifesting things, and my thoughts, I got control of my thoughts through meditation. And through gaining control of my thoughts and my words, I began manifesting my life in the way that I wanted to go. Is that some Luciferian shit or what?
Now, what I can share, and I know Raven knows this because she's been in those classes too. We're not going to get into the specifics. I know from Trina participating, we're aware of some of the personal work. It's personal. We're not going to discuss it. But I'm bringing that up because when, again, to Raven's question and what you were saying earlier, this shit happens in stages and layers. And people need to understand that. And I hope nobody's bypassing that. And that applies, we all, if you're on this path, myself, anybody else can verify that and tell you it's a never ending process, number one. And number two, it happens in stages. So I'm listening to you talk, Trina, and I'm hearing you're referencing years and points, which is showing me that you can actually connect to those points and explain those periods, of going through the changes, and people got to understand that. But anyway, Raven, did you have anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, I did until you went to Ram and kind of just threw me
Listen,
off.
I ain't asking if you had a smart ass comment. I asked if you. Now go ahead. And when you're done, if you don't mind, you want to throw the questions in the chat.
We'll see when I'm done.
All right.
Y'all funny.
You get on my nerves. It was okay. So how do your family see you now? Was they seeing you on this path for a while, and they see your life making changes? They see you are changing. So how do they perceive everything now? With your walk,
my children are proud. Me and my children, we've come on this journey. We've been together on it. We are proud. We support and uplift one another. We study together. We walked it together. But outside of my children, the rest of them are like, really, bitch.
Okay.
They have no interest in my life or in and I don't blame them because they're not there yet, and it's okay. I mean, they just discovered Jesus was black a few years ago. So I don't hold anything against my family. I love both my sisters. Come from a very talented family, very, very talented family. Beautiful. They try they try both sides on my mother and father's side. They try very hard to invite me around and invite me for Christmas. Hey, hold up though. Your girl, she'll get that Christmas in. What? Your
I
girl,
love Chris.
okay, I will show up at a Thanksgiving dinner. And I don't care if you like how I sound or not, but I'm singing with y'all. I'm in there. I'm real close with my family, no matter what. It is what it is.
That's right.
And they just got to the point. They know I'm the family weirdo. I'm the black light skinned sheep. But they love me, and I love my family. I love my sisters, Shelly and Tam. They're amazing. My whole family, all of them are amazing. And for them to be as religious as they are, to get to the point where they accept my demonic ass, and for all the weirdness, what's weird to them, they still embrace me as the family member. So there was a point though when I've been on the outside for quite a few years, but I stood my ground as to who I am. Me and my children, we stick together. And but they took us back in, and they love us just the same, and they just don't care no more. Bye. They just like, bye, girl.
Cool. Cool. And I had to step away a little bit, so I don't know if this was addressed. Um, I'm just going to state it this way, irregardless of what knowledge or whatever knowledge I may think I may have. So you're on this path, as far as relationship wise, a significant other. How do they feel about you walking this path? If you're with someone, I'm just asking in this way so that
It's okay. It's
Okay.
okay. I'm married to a wonderful African brother. He grew up in London. His name is Sydney, and he's African. He's from Ghana. His lineage takes him back to the Congo. Um, he's in an unfold now. He's walked this journey for over 20 years, way ahead of me.
Mm.
Um, he was Nuwapian at one point, as we discussed with Brother Beniti and Brother Ravana as well. And so he is on his path and on his journey. And he and I both are, well, I'm working with him now on some candle magic, and he's learning different levels now. But even if you've been on the path for 20 years or so, you can never stop learning. Sydney's doing his thing.
Never.
He's doing his
Oh,
work, and I'm doing mine, and we're doing work together as well.
tell Sydney hello. I just.
I guarantee you, he's at work right now, but he got his earbuds on.
All
He
right,
heard you.
Sydney.
You know
All
we
right,
love you.
Sydney. Yep. A nice gentleman. Really nice gentleman.
Yeah, we had a
Um,
chance to meet him the first time.
Yeah,
yep,
he's sweet.
yep. Okay, I'll leave it be. I know we're going to run it on time, and maybe some questions in the chat that I need
Yeah,
to get to.
well, yeah, there's some here at the
Since I have
bottom.
to get to since I have to get to the message, since I have to get to the chat.
I
Okay, let
got
me
the
start
first
at the
one.
top. You got
I
the
got,
first one?
yeah, I got the first one. It's kind of towards the bottom. So let me say this to everybody. We got about 29 minutes. So if you got some questions, I'm going to take the few I see here. Then I'm going to open the phone lines. I know you got to have some questions for Trina and all the stuff that she's talked about. Shit. So here's the first one for you. This is from Saw 180. It says, thanks, Trina. You mentioned the Zohar in Beniti's class. What's your experience with this? And thanks for sharing. So they want to know what's your experience with the Zohar.
My experience with the Zohar is that I had the entire collection in Israel, from the rooter to the tutor, the beginning and the ending. I it's a part of Jewish mysticism. I was not impressed because it is designed and written. I didn't like it because it's written in a way, if you don't know yourself and know where you're going, it's written to throw you off course.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, I was something inside of me knew where I was going. So I was unable to bring that collection with me back to America. And I think the spirit, ancestors, whatever you want to call it, was like, leave that shit over there. That's how I feel about the that's how I feel about the Zohar, because it's a very difficult collection to read. If you are not a left brain thinker.
Okay.
It's written in a very left brain style. And if you've known me or you heard me talk for just a little bit, I'm over the top, insane, creatively crazy creative. So that's not a book, that's not a collection that settled well with me. It just didn't. I didn't vibe with it a lot.
Okay. Do you have access to type in your email from where you're at now? Somebody's asking if you could type it in. Nikita, you
Me?
got
Wacky J has been typing it in all the while.
where? I
They
don't see
have to
it.
either, he has. Let me get to it. He's just been typing it in there. I saw it. Let me see. Let me go back
Nikita,
downward.
you got to stop eating the mangoes when the class is going on. Said she was eating a mango and her hands were messy when you gave out the email. Wacky
And
J.
and my V typed it in at 919, which is TIFERET. Wait,
40
40
at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yep, gmail.com.
So go to the
Mavi was
9.
listening at gmail.com.
All right. So go down. You might have already. Well, obviously that's after this question. So you probably already saw it, Nikita. So her and anybody else listening, go down to the 9:19 time frame in the chat. As Raven said.
Thank you, Mavi.
And thanks, Mavi, for putting it in there also. That's how you can contact her. And again, get the book directly from her. Okay.
Yeah, don't go to Amazon. She has like explained it like 1,000 times. So if you guys do not order, we're not talking about Amazon right now. We just talking about to get the book, email her at the email address provided. It is T is in Tom, I is in Isaac, F is in Frank, E is in Edward, R is in Robert, E is in Edward, T is in Tom, 40@gmail.com. Email Trina and get it directly from her, people. Okay, we're not talking about Amazon. She explained it for the umpteenth time. Okay.
All right,
Since
cool.
y'all don't have any more questions, you stop being bad. Hey, namaste, fam. Hey, look at namaste in the building.
All right.
That's Jack is on the Jack, you got any questions?
Hey, Jack.
For Trina?
Jack, no, she didn't encounter no midget strippers in the Holy Land. All right, so
that was a question. That was a question if Trina by Mandela Born.
Yeah, I got it right
Did
there.
you run it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I see it. I'm staying on
Did
mine.
you want to read it?
All right, so Mandela Born is asking you, did you run into any Hebrew Rastas in Israel?
Yes, most definitely. They want a lot of the Rastas, because of the way my hair was at the time. I had a great big old lock over here on the side of my head. And so a lot of them thought I should be a part of their community until they realized I would not be brought under control. And they kind of stayed away from me because the Rastas are very controlling.
Yes.
And from what I saw, from what I experienced, they're very controlling and they have no problem laying hands. So that's not a community that I was going to be. I don't go around people that's going to beat me up. I like to win.
One thing, and this is, and again, I want to make this clear what I'm about to say. I'm not saying all Rastas are like this. I know a lot of good Rasta brothers, so let me put that out there. I'm friends with a lot. There's a venue that I taught at for many years, and for whatever reason over the years, they've come to my classes. Don't ask me why. Part of it's the locale and the location that has something to do with it. Certain circles, but yeah, they tend to be one-track minded. When yeah, with the female shit too, it's a whole nother story. What's to be learned from all this? And yeah, and again, I'm glad these questions are coming up. I'm glad people are asking, like Mandela Born. And I know Mandela Born has experience with the whole Ethiopian Rasta type of thing. That's part of his background. Maybe we could actually get him on here one day.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and have him talk about, because I know he's got an interesting story too. We got to look at this whole bigger picture to show, how this fuckery that goes on. It doesn't mean like, look, some of the information can be uplifting. Don't get me wrong, but what ruins it and destroys it when it's not about the information anymore and it becomes about these people and their personal bullshit and their fucking egos. And I think that's what the issue is, and nobody wants to really address it. And then when you call people out on this bullshit, they get offended, right? And we're listening to Trina's story. I know this is why I've been kicked out of many groups back in the day over the years, because I'm the same way. I'm not going to keep my tongue tied. If I see some bullshit, I mean, look, I've come to blows with brothers in meetings. I've been communicated at at the time of commune light in the middle of the winter now with my first son, who was 3 months old. So and then here's the fuckery part. When I got kicked out, they told my wife she could stay. Listen to that fuckery shit. You got to go, but your wife can stay. See, it's
how special.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what I'm saying. It's this fuckery shit that goes on. But I want to go back to something we said earlier when it came to when you were talking about that dude, the pedophile shit and the fuckery.
Stephen Blackburn,
Stephen Blackburn, yeah.
aka Eliyahu.
Eliyahu, Yahoo, Yoo-hoo, whatever.
Boo-hoo.
But we're just as guilty if we sit by and don't do anything or say anything. So fuck, people ain't gonna like you for it. People gonna ostracize you for it. They're gonna say you're a troublemaker. I say fuck them, because if they are defending these motherfuckers, they're just as guilty as they are. Period.
I don't have time for it.
Me neither.
I don't give a shit if you. Yeah, you know what? A lot of them already know. They know how I am. People, I don't give a shit if you like me or not. Trina does not care. I'm not in this for a popularity contest. You know, I don't give a shit.
No, but like when you were talking about the again, I can't remember all these guys take these fancy names, Luhu, Guhu, Bahu, and Shahu, and all this shit. The dude, like when you confronted the dude that was running the organization,
Shabaniah,
Scooby Doo, Shabba-Dabba-Doo, whatever the fuck his name is. It's funny because I'm just having a little fun. Just a little humor. It's funny because people will go to that length because they got an agenda to suit their ego, because they got something personally to gain from it. My thing is that dude, again, I'm using that as an example to what I just said a minute ago. That guy's just as guilty as the pedophile for the fact that he is willing to just sweep that shit under the rug. That's what blows me away about the whole thing. It's like, I look at that person just as fucked up as the person, and really, that's a person you obviously can't trust.
Well, they're co-signing. They're co-signing with it.
Right. And I don't get that. And to me, I'm not going to sugarcoat it in any shape, form, or fashion. There's harming children, whether you're physically harming them, beating them, harming elderly people, all those things. There's certain things in my book. It's me. I engage in this to no religious or morals. It's me, Beniti. That's my fucking universe, my world. You violate that personal perspective of me, I don't give a fuck if you agree with it or not, but I'm gonna step to your ass, period. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. And it's, again, I'm not gauging this to any religious or spiritual moral standard. It's my personal standard. See, here's the problem with us.
They don't deal with it unless they feel like it's one of their family members, because they don't see that.
Exactly.
No matter what it is, no matter if.
Right.
And it's right. You know, they have the dark web. They have all these things about children. You on YouTube, this was one girl I follow on YouTube. I can't think of her name, but how it splits their personalities when they are children and being molested. Even a lot of it, she said some was physical. She said some was picture taking, forced them to be children of children. You know, how she is literally split into like 5 personalities. Yeah. Because some sick adults got to get their whatever being behind shit like that. You know, I fuck them.
Right. And, but what I'm trying to say is,
what I have to say.
No, it's a good point. What I'm trying to say is all of us, you know, the old adage, if you don't stand for something, then you don't stand for anything. This is not about, I hate straddlers. I hate people that straddle the fucking fence or try to be liberal.
Man.
Take a stance on something. I respect that. Don't mean we got to agree with it. I'm not saying everybody's going to agree with my stance, because I don't expect, but I'm clear on my stance, and I don't give a fuck whether you like it or not. I'm stepping to that ass. You do something on that level, and these were one of the reasons why I left groups that I was saying a lot of the similar shit you're talking about. This is exactly very similar reasons why I broke away, because of speaking up. And you know, then again, you're made to look like you're the bad person. Yeah. I say to all those people, fuck them. If you're too much of a pussy to speak your mind, then I don't want to go into the trenches and war with you, because I know I can't.
But you know, and when you're telling a truth or any truth at any given level, people are going to be mad. It's how you said it to me.
Right.
Which I don't care. Did I tell your ass the truth or not? Did I tell you the truth? Yes. Then don't bother me. I ain't got shit else to say about it. Well, and no matter what the level of truth is, people don't want to hear it You're a fucking child molester. You've been sitting in the same, talking about the same shit for the past 3 years. Get out of my face. I don't want to hear from you. You know,
Exactly.
people don't want to deal with truth. If you're stagnant, I can't deal with you. I have to move on. Fuck you too.
That's right.
Child molesters, whoever they are. Nobody wants to hear that. And when you tell them the truth, when you try to expose the truth, people come back to you like you did something dirty.
And let me say something on that note.
Exactly. I can speak on that. Hey, wait a second. 1 second, Benita. I'm sorry. Bring in Jack, just so because I know he's on the road. Jack want to come in.
Jack. I ain't bringing Jack's ass in. Hold on. But let me say this real quick on that note, on the whole molestation thing. I've gotten into arguments with people that don't have children trying to justify this bullshit. First of all, let me say this, and if you don't like this, I'm gonna say
They can
straight
kiss
up,
my black ass.
go fuck yourself, right? If you don't have a child, you don't have an opinion, period. I'm talking to I literally have people try to be objective about this shit and try to reason it.
No.
If you don't have a child, you don't really have a perspective on that. And you can disagree with that, but I could say to you, I don't give a fuck. Because it's a different feeling for somebody that has a child, because the first thing I would say to you is, what if that was your child? And I love motherfuckers that try to reason it out. Well, if it was my child, I'd approach. See, it's easy to say that when you don't have a child.
When your child, you don't have a child and your child ain't been injured.
In it, thank you. So I want to make that clear. So don't nobody send me no motherfucking emails. You're wasting your damn time. You're gonna get your feelings hurt. All right.
Because I have a friend who lived with who is that? Down there in Ben Ami's group. She's got some horror stories of molestations, of nation beatings. Her and her children. She's asked me, she said, I want to go on your Facebook and go live and tell my story. I have yet to deal with that. I haven't been able to yet.
Well, tell her she could even come on here. We'd love.
I will tell her, because she has been waiting to tell her story. I will allow her to.
I'd love to get on. And Mandela Born, I'm gonna contact you, see when we can get you on here. Maybe next week or the week after, if you can. Jack, I sent you the link. All right, so we got a little bit of time left. Let's put the number in there.
We got a question from T. Carter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw Tanisha's question. That was where I was going next. Put the number in there after this question. Let me make this clear, so nobody call right now. And if you do call, let's get a straight question to Trina on the topic, because we're kind of getting close to the end with time frame. Let's get her a question. So we'll do that after this. But this is a good. It's actually a couple-part question by Tanisha. Actually, a good question. So Tanisha is asking Trina. She says, "Thank you for sharing. What type of protection rituals or tools do you prefer to place over or use for your children?" That's the first one. And also, what female archetypes do you prefer to work with and why? That's the second one.
As far as protection goes, my children, at the time that we lived in Israel, I covered them.
Okay.
With my energy and my protection, and in turn, they covered me. We covered each other because we didn't know anything. We didn't know any better. We didn't know how this protection thing works. At this point in our journey, my children are extremely powerful entities on their own. And they have their own rituals that they do in terms of protection. They practice their own candle magic. They do their own studying. Now, as for me, protection, I have an ancestral deity that, in fact, I'm looking at it right. You think I could show him, Beniti?
Yeah, go ahead.
A
Okay.
Glock 9.
Girl, don't play. I got that though. I got one. But this is one of them that walks with me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them, if you can see her here.
Yep.
She's from the Congo. Her spirit, her energy is from the Congo. She has walked with me on my entire, in fact, as I'm holding her right now, I'm getting chills and messages from her right now. This was my protection, and I didn't even know one of them. she's walked this path with me from the very beginning.
Right.
And you see this face right here. Uh, this is the masculine side. This one also has another. These are from Mass from the Congo. They're filled with ancestral entities. My ancestors have been with me long before I knew it.
Right.
And they have walked with me, guided me, protected me. I don't do spells of protection at this point because I feel I feel very safe. I don't do any spells. I don't do any protection rituals at this point. I may need to one day, but where I'm at right now, I feel so wrapped and secured and surrounded. And if I need any additional information in terms of protection, I would go to Beniti. I ain't scared. I ain't scared to ask ask questions. I'll go to Raven. Ain't no shame here. But what female deities, was that the second part of the question?
Yes.
Do I work with?
Yeah, and why? And why? Which ones do you like to work with, and why?
Oh my goodness, let me put mama back over here. Right now I am studying Santa Muerte because I want to get in on that particular energy, but I study first.
Right.
So that I make sure I know how to apply and satisfy that particular deity when I'm ready to work with her.
Right.
And right now, Lilith has been the sweetest. Lilith has been the sweetest energy for me to work with. People think Lilith is all about sex, and truly, she is a freaky, freaky deaky.
Right. But it's so much.
But beyond, but that sexual energy is more than just the act of sex itself. It's a surgence of power.
That's right.
From within to go deeper into knowing yourself and to give you a higher spiritual level of confidence, one that I have never known in my life until I tapped into her particular current.
Right.
Lilith at this point in my journey is my absolute favorite because I'm working with her one-on-one. In fact, right now I have I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I use my wand for working with people's chakras. And I have a wand right now sitting on my statue of Lilith. Right. And she just she puts her energy into that. But Lilith awakens something in me to help me stand up to my challenges with courage and with power, and never to doubt myself. I've gone through a period of second guessing. Well, no, I'm not going to do it. Then I realized I should have followed my first mind. Well, Lilith wiped out that second guessing within me, and she helped me to know myself better. So as it stands right now, Lilith is my favorite. Oshun, they are all, the ones that I've worked with in the past have all been wonderful. Oshun has been a very wonderful deity. I got to know both sides of Oshun because, there's Oshun of the wonderful, pristine waters, love Oshun and that side of her. But Oshun is also goddess of the swamp hoes. She's goddess of all those bodies of waters. So I got to know Oshun on many different levels. So I can't say I have a favorite deity per se, because I've enjoyed the awakening that each of them that I've worked. Hathor, that diva, okay? I've enjoyed the awakening that each of these deities have given me, the tapping down within me and knowing myself at different levels,
Right.
So okay. I can't say I got a favorite.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish with these last couple questions in the chat because we got several more here. So let's finish with these. So I don't want really nobody to call in, only because again, I'm on a time schedule actually for the next several weeks. So since there's already questions here, let's roll with the rest of these questions here. All right. So Akpan Faku. That's my man right there. That's my man, Akpan. Akpan asks, and I think you kind of answered this in various portions of the show, but maybe you can just answer it in its totality briefly. He asks, how did you move past all the fuckery and become whole again? That could be a show by itself, but.
Oh, man. What's his Akbar? Is it?
Akpan.
Okay, brother. I'm gonna be real honest with you. As I tend to be any damn way. I don't know that I'm completely whole as of yet. I'm in an unfolding. I never try to give the image of Trina. Got it all together. She's old.
That's right.
Hell no.
Still working on it, bro. But that's a good point. It's like we say, it's always a consistent work in progress.
Yeah, I'm constantly. But in the Christian world, they say, "Please be patient with me. God is not through with me yet." Well, true enough, I'm not done unfolding as of yet, so I can't. I don't know if I'm there or not. You know, as I and every time I discover another layer of me, I'm like, wow, I'm fucking amazing. Whoa, I love me more, you know.
There you go.
But there's so much more to learn. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question yet, because I don't know if I'm even whole yet. I don't know for sure.
Right. Good point. Like you said, again, it's layers unfolding.
Yeah.
All right. So Mandela Born asks, do you incorporate any Israelite lessons besides the Kabbalah to any of your new path that you're on now? Do you utilize it in any shape, form, or fashion?
Well, first and foremost, most the Hebrews I know are scared to death of Kabbalah because they don't want to deal with the klipo or the clip off, as people normally pronounce it. Or they don't. They think that's of Satan. They scared to death of Kabbalah, from what I know. So they don't deal with that shit. That's some Jewish mysticism shit.
So they
But
think it's Satan, like the movies. Oh, hell, Satan! That shit kills me. I know, that's some funny ass shit.
you clowning now.
Yeah. Hell, Satan.
But they sure do. What the Hebrews taught me, though, they taught me about veganism, which was great. But I like to eat me some chicken and fish now. I did
Right.
veganism for 10 years because of them, and I learned about why this system won't last forever. They taught me many different things. They taught me about the chemicals, the products, and food. They taught me about the practicalities of life. Just the most basic necessities that people might need to know. Because at the time, you know, I was trusting doctors and shit. Well, let me go to the doctor. They were like, no, try these herbs and then see if the doctor can work. But try the herbs first. So they taught me about herbal healing. They taught me many different things that I do apply now. And hey, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't shut down everything that I learned from them. I'd be a fool.
Sure.
I'd be a fool. You know, and I'm always open to learn from whoever. If they got something I need, I'm gonna get it.
Right. Good point. Yeah, I see. Nikita. What movie was that? Was that Omen that had that music? That's
yes.
Shit, man. That was some funny ass shit. All right. I think we got one more for you, then we're gonna wrap it up. Tanisha asks, asking me and you, I'll be brief on this. She's asking me, then you, have you ever had a blockage and what did you do? I'll just be brief. Of course, I've had many blockages. What I did depended on what the blockage was and the situation. So it just depended on the situation, what area the blockage was in, and then I would apply ritualistic work. Again, to be brief, I would use an archetype or a deity or a ritual working that applied to that specific scenario, you know, to get it kind of cleared up. I don't know how you do it, Trina, but that's I'm just going to be brief with it.
And for me, when I have my blockages, oftentimes I'll go do some candle magic.
Okay, yeah, that's
oftentimes the candle magic is like opening a gateway to figure out what I need to do for myself. Candle magic, you know, I may ask for one particular thing, but the candle magic be like, no, that's not the energy would be like, that's not what you need, but here's what the problem really is.
Right.
You know?
And right. And that's a good point. I always tell people candle magic is one of the quickest and simplest forms to utilize. I know sometimes people hear candle magic and for some reason they always go to money. And it's so much more than that. There's destructive aspects to it. There's witchcraft aspects to it. Invoking certain forces and energies. It's so much more than just what sometimes is presented. But anyway, I think what we're going to do is wrap it up. We're at the 10 o'clock hour. We definitely want to get you back here. Maybe next time we'll focus on a particular topic. But let me throw this out there. I'm glad everybody got to hear. Now, remind you, she gave us a quick rundown of her story. The book obviously gets more into detail. You could take your time, submerge yourself in the book, read the book again. You got her email. I see it typed all in the chat. Remember, you can reach out to her on, she's got a Facebook and an Instagram page, just Trina, and I believe H-E-R-T is your last name, correct?
Uh-huh.
All right, not H-U-R-T, okay? Let me just make that clear. So you can reach her on any of those platforms. Again, for the 15,000th time, get the book straight from her because she gets the profits that way. Doesn't get it through the other way, so support. Remember, she also has a book she's finishing up, should be out sometime in the fall, which sounds very interesting. So make sure you get the book and get the full story. We just went through, obviously her story would take much longer. 2 hours is believe it or not, a much shorter time. So we'll get you back here. But so what I'll do is I'll leave you with closing thoughts and the closing word, and we'll wrap it up.
Just thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate your good energy, and we'll chat it up again sometime. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your support. I love it. Thank you.
I did. I enjoyed it. Good topic. Good. Some good shit you laid down, and I'm glad you uncovered the fuckery shit. That was important, and I'm glad that. Yeah, I'm glad you're not a straddler. You took a stance, and unfortunately, when you do, you gotta deal with the bullshit that comes along with it. But at least,
absolutely,
at least you had, the nerve to actually take a stand. And let me reiterate this again: if you can connect to any portions of that story, say something. Don't just stand by and let that shit happen. Period. If you do, again, you're just as guilty. But again, I want to thank you for coming by. We'll definitely get you back here a couple weeks, maybe or next month sometime. We'll get you back. Maybe we'll explore a little further and go on to something else. All right.
Cool.
All right. I appreciate it. I thank everybody for tuning in. For those that'll be here tomorrow night, I will see you people tomorrow night. Be on time. I don't play that shit. Door will lock on your ass. But now we have a good small group tomorrow, so we'll be good. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll be back on there Tuesday. Brother Mandela Born, I will reach out with you. Shoot me some Thursdays that you're available. If you're listening, just send me an email. Let's start getting some of you guys on with the stories. Don't be coming on. Now let me make sure. I know Mandela Born. I know you because I've done some work with you. I know your story. I know Trina. I know some of you is on that level. But don't be coming on with no bullshit like, We don't want to hear, just, the other day. And no, have a story to tell. All right. Let's make that clear. All right. I appreciate everybody. We will see everybody on Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. Peace.